Hello everyone, welcome back to Foodemy. In this video, we'll be talking about the remaining other questions of the FSSAI Central Food Safety Officer previous year question paper. We'll also look at the concepts related to the questions that have been asked in the previous year paper. So without any delay, let us begin. So the first question says, which of the following is not a part of risk analysis? So before getting into the question, we'll try to understand what risk analysis is and what are the actual parts of the risk analysis. The options here already given are the risk assessment, risk communication, risk prevention, and risk management. So let us first try to understand what risk analysis is. So risk analysis in reference to food is a process which consists of three major components. That is, first is the risk assessment, risk management, and risk communication. Now, what this risk assessment, management, and communication means? So first, risk assessment means that it is a science-based process consisting of 4 steps. That is, first is the hazard identification, hazard characterization, exposure assessment, risk characterization. So it means that we are trying to assess the nature of the risk that can happen to the food, which can cause foodborne illness to the consumer. So herein we are trying to all assess the qualitative and the quantitative nature of the hazard. We are first trying to identify the hazard, that is what kind of hazard it is, biological, physical, chemical, or whatsoever, maybe toxin or something else. What is the characteristic of the hazard is the next thing that we do. Third is the exposure assessment, means we are trying to analyze what is the likelihood of the exposure of the hazard that can occur in the food. And fourth is the risk characterization, wherein we are integrating all of the characterization, the risk, the hazard identification, hazard characterization, and the exposure assessment. This is about risk assessment. The second component is the risk management. Now, once we have analyzed about the risk, we have understood what kind of risk it is, we have to now manage the risk. So the second component is evaluating what is the best possible method or what is the best policy that can be utilized to manage the risk. So it is less than science-based, it is more towards the policy-based system. So it is a policy-based system wherein we are evaluating the various options available in terms of policies so that we can manage the risk and we can monitor and review the risk. So it includes the evaluation and the management option assessment, which can be utilized, which option is the best for the system, and also implementing the decision that has been taken by the management, and finally monitoring and reviewing the process. The third is the risk communication, wherein we are communicating what type of risk it is and what decision has been taken throughout the risk analysis process amongst the various stakeholders who are involved in this. These may be your risk assessors, these may be your risk managers, and the other important stakeholders. So the three components are your risk assessment, risk management, and your risk communication. Now, what were the options? Risk assessment is there, management is there, communication is there, management is there. But what is not a part of risk analysis is the risk prevention. So the answer to this question is option C, risk prevention. Moving on to the next question, again, it is related to the concept we just understood about risk analysis. The question is asking, risk assessment means a scientifically based process consisting of how many steps? First option is 8 steps, 4 steps, 10 steps, or 6 steps. Now we have just now understood about the risk assessment, which is the first important component of the risk analysis procedure, which includes how many steps? 4 steps. So we have just understood which are the 4 steps. First is the hazard identification, then we characterize the hazard, then exposure assessment, and finally risk characterization happens. So how many steps do we have in risk assessment? Is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer to this question is option B, 4 steps. Moving on to the next question, again it is related to this risk analysis concept only. So many questions have been asked from this only concept, risk analysis, and the related concepts to it. So the question is saying that risk management is a process that includes, the options are hazard identification, interactive exchange of information and opinions, hazard characterization, evaluation of policy alternatives. Now we have talked about 3 components: risk assessment, risk management, and the risk communication. Herein the question is asking us for the risk management. What were we doing in the risk management? We were evaluating the various policies available, various alternatives that are available for the risk management. So here you can directly tell that the answer is evaluation of policy alternatives that are available. So risk management, as per the definition, means that it is distinct from assessment. Now we have assessed the risk, but we have to manage it now. With here, we are evaluating the policy alternatives that are available to us in consultation with all the interested parties which are involved in the risk assessment and analysis process, and also taking in consideration the other relevant factors which are important when it comes to the protection of health of the consumer and also for the promotion of fair trade practices in the environment. And if needed in this process, sometimes even prevention and control measures are also decided, and those decisions are also taken and implemented during this risk management process. So the correct answer would be here, option D, evaluation of policy alternatives. That is actually the risk management process. Correct? Now moving on to the next question. The full form of MRA is, the four options that you have is microbiological risk assessment, marine risk assessment, micro risk assessment, major risk assessment. We have just now understood about the risk analysis concept, about the risk assessment, what are the 4 steps. Now this is exactly similar to the risk assessment we have understood right now, but it's just that it is specifically talking about the microbiological risk assessment, wherein we are assessing the risk associated with the biological hazard. So what is the full form here? Microbiological risk assessment is the correct answer. What does it mean? It is basically a structured process wherein we are determining the risk which are associated with any particular biological hazard in any food. So again, the 4 steps involved in this MRA or the microbiological risk assessment will be same as any risk assessment process, that is hazard identification, hazard characterization, exposure assessment and the risk characterization. So the correct answer is microbiological risk assessment. Moving on to the next question. Now we'll talk about the questions which are related to the structure and the organization functioning of the FSSAI. So the first question or the next question we have is, the Food Authority comprises of 22 members, of which women shall make up 2 dash, 3/4, 1/3, 2/3 or half. So now the question is asking you about the structure of the organization. It is saying that the Food Authority has 22 members. It is already given, but out of these 22 members, how many should be your women out of these members? How much should be the fraction of women out of these 22 members? Before getting into these details, we'll try to understand what these members, who exactly these members are, and what is the actual structure of FSSAI organization. So we know that some little details about FSSAI. We know FSSAI is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which has been enacted, which has been implemented or established under the Act, FSS Act, that is Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, and though it has been established in 2008, but it has been functioning since 2011. Also, it is functioning under the ministry. It comes under the purview of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Now the structure, what is actually the structure? So the major authoritative organization structure is, there is a chairman, and along with the chairman we have 22 members. Now these are the major stakeholders, we can say that the major organization structure is this only, chairman and 22 members are there. Now who are these 22 members? Who are they? From which organization they belong to? So these 22 members are from diverse areas, and they're representing all the key stakeholders in the food chain that we have. So they are representing 7 members are from the different ministries, such as your Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Food Processing Industries, Consumer Affairs and other ministries. We have 2 representatives from the food industry. So from the small scale industries and industries, we'll have 2 representatives. 2 representatives are also from the consumer organizations. We have 3 food technologists or eminent scientists working in the area of food science and technology. 5 members appointed from zones. So 5 different states or union territories or zones. People are being a part of are actually a member of the FSSAI. So it is on a rotation basis. It's not like it's fixed for any particular 5 states or union territories. 2 representatives are from farmers organization and 1 is from the retailers organization. Now out of these all 22, it has been mentioned in the Act that 1/3 of these 22 members shall be women. So we have got the answer to this question, that out of these 22 members, how many should be women? 1/3. So the correct answer over here will be 1/3, option B. We'll not stop here. We'll try to understand the organization structure much better. So we just understood that there is a chairman, there's a chairperson, and we have 22 members along with him. But what about the other people who are working in the different areas? These are just the decision making or the authority, the major people of this organization. So first, talking about the chairperson, we know who is the current chairperson of FSSAI at present. Shri Rajesh Bhushan IAS officer is the chairperson of FSSAI, and along with him we have 22 members, out of which 1/3 shall be women. So these are making the organization structure of this FSSAI. Apart from this, we have the head of the administrative role, the person who will be looking after all the day-to-day administrative role and also working for the coordination activities and implementation activity. Who will be that? He is the CEO of FSSAI, he or she. So at present, CEO of FSSAI is Shri Arun Singhal, IAS officer, and CEO will be looking after all the day-to-day administrative work, as I just said. So there are under him there are a lot of committees that are working along with him basically. So these committees or these divisions, you can say, these verticals or divisions are working in different areas. These are your scientific committee, scientific panel, central advisory committee. So these scientific committee and scientific panel are basically involved in the standard setting, in the policy making or regulation making processes. And the scientific panels are at present are 21. These scientific panels are different for the different areas, maybe for specific product, maybe for specific areas such as microbiological or maybe some pesticide residue or something like that. And the chairperson of all of these scientific panels, that is those 21 chairpersons who are heading these scientific panels, are part of the scientific committee who are finally going to approve that what is to be put forward to the CEO, or what is to be put forward further for these regulations, or they will be making the final decisions for these standards that they are recommending or that they are proposing. Also, we have Central Advisory Committee that is working in basically in the compliance and the inspection area. Okay, so this is the overall structure. I hope it is clear to you now. Moving to the next question. FSSAI has been mandated by which of the following? Central government, state government, FSS Act 2006, WHO, that is World Health Organization. So we know that FSS Act has came into existence because of what? Because of the Act, because it has been mentioned in the Act that there has to be an organization to implement this Act, of course, and to look after all the food safety and other related issues. So it has been mandated or established under the FSS Act 2006. So we know that Food Safety and Standards Act 2006 is the correct answer to this question. Very simple and straightforward question. We'll move to the next question. Authorities jointly responsible for implementation and enforcement of FSS Act 2006 include your FSSAI and Central Food Authorities, FSSAI and FAO, WHO and FAO, FSSAI and State Food Authorities. Now we know here that if WHO and FAO are international organizations, and here in this question we are talking about the implementation of our FSS Act, that is Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. So who is actually implementing it? So the Act is being implemented, or you can say it is being enforced by two major key players, FSSAI and State Food Authorities. Now FSSAI and State Food Authorities, they jointly share this responsibility for enacting or for implementing and enforcing the provisions of this Act, the regulations and the standards that have been implemented under this Act. The Food Safety Authority, that is the food in states and the union territories, is headed by Commissioner of Food Safety. So you have to remember this, that in each state wherein we are having the State Food Authority, that is being headed by the Commissioner of Food Safety for efficient implementation of the Act, of course, and the rules and regulation. Now this Commissioner of Food Safety, all these Commissioner of Food Safety from all the states and union territories are part of the Central Advisory Committee, who will be as a part of you remember we studied that there is Central Advisory Committee under this along with other committees. So the Commissioner of Food Safety is all the Commissioner of Food Safety are member of that CAC, that is a CAC or Central Advisory Committee. So the answer to this question will be who are actually implementing the FSSAI, that is your central organization, or you can say the major food authority, the main food authority of India, and the state food authorities. These two are responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the Act in our country. Also, we'll try to understand how the structure is. We are saying that there is some central authority, that is your FSSAI. We looked at the structure. There is a chairman, there is CEO. We have the different committees. We have 22 members. But what about the state authorities? How are they? What are they? How are they functioning? And how these two authorities are actually enacting? Who are the key stakeholders? Who are the key officers which are actually implementing or actually helping to enforce the provisions of the Act? So if we talk about the central authority, that is the FSSAI, the food authority, herein we have CEO FSSAI. What is the name? Arun Singhal, correct? And here under him we'll have central licensing authority or central designated officer. Now these designated officers are responsible for issuing the license and inspecting the reports or that is being sent by the analyst, taking decisions, also taking the complaints that are being made against any contravention of the act or maybe even against the FSO. So they are looking after all of those things. Then we have the central food safety officer who will be actually going to the field and collecting samples, doing the surveillance activity and sampling and other things. And then finally the samples that have been collected will be sent to food analysts. So we have these major key stakeholders. And at the state level, same kind of structure is being followed. It's little change in the name. Who will be heading this state food authority? We just understood that State Food Safety Commissioner will be heading this state food authority, and he will be responsible for enacting all this, for enforcing all the provisions of the act. Then we have the designated officer again at the state level who will be doing the same kind of duties, who will be having the same duties. Then we have food safety officer at the state level. So you might connect it with the way that different states have conducted examination for food safety officers, because the state food authority in that particular state has to hire these food safety officers. So the state authorities have different food safety officer, and of course the central authority, that is our FSSAI, has central food safety officers, but the duties are almost same. Then we have the state food analysts at the state level. So these food analysts will be collecting samples, giving the reports to the food safety officer or to the designated officers. Now once the food sample, let us say if it has been collected from somewhere else and there is some contamination in the sample and some penalty has to be given by the FBO. Now who will be taking the decision that what kind of penalty has to be given? So if a normal prosecution has to be done, the designated officer or the state food safety commissioner will make the decision. If some kind of adjudication or some kind of it has to go to the court, a proper civil manner, then in that case another important officer comes into role, that is adjudicating officer. He is again playing a role at both central level and the state food safety authority, food authorities. So the adjudicating officer will be making all the adjudications that are required in case any contravention is made of this act. Right, so this is the whole structure, how the state food authorities and central food authorities are actually implementing the act and how they're actually working at the ground level. I hope this is clear. Now we'll move on to the next question. The next question says, chairperson of the food authority should be well versed in the field of engineering, social science, food science, medicine. Now it's a very easy question. Of course, we're talking about a food authority. So the head of the organization should also be well versed with which concept? Of course, about the food. So here the option C will be the correct answer. That is, he or she has to be well versed in the area of food science. So we'll talk a little more about the chairperson. We'll know a little more facts about him or her. So the chairperson is actually the functional head of the food authority or the organization, we have just understood. Also, the chairperson is being appointed for a period of 3 years by Government of India, and this chairperson that is being selected by Government of India has to, he or she is a person from eminence in the field of food science, and also or maybe amongst from the administration of Government of India, and holds a position of not below the rank of secretary at Government of India, in Government of India. So at present we have the chairperson Shri Rajesh Bhushan is our chairperson, and the first chairperson of FSSAI was Shri P.I. Suvrathan IAS officer. We'll move forward. In case the seized food article is perishable and is unfit for human consumption, the food safety officer should do what? First, send the sample for analysis. After giving proper notice in written to FBO, destroy the sample. Destroy the same without notifying the food business operator. Return the same to FBO after notifying him in writing. Now here the question is asking you about what is actually what FSO is supposed to do when he or she seizes a particular sample. That too specifically if the sample is very perishable in nature. So he or she does not have the time to send the sample, or maybe he just seize the sample and keep it for a longer time. The officer has to make that decision there. So what should the officer do? Now we look what are the duties of FSO in brief. So FSO is one of the duties is of course to seize the sample, not anything, but so those products which are in contravention of FSS Act or any regulation, which are not complying to a particular standard or any requirement or any regulation that we have as per FSS Act. Now, FSO can keep this sample or this particular article of food in his or her custody or even in the custody of the FPO by taking a due bond amount, which is the value of the food which has been seized from the FPO, and that can be seized thereafter. Now, in case the food is of perishable nature, so when the FSO has to seize that particular food, or when the FSO finds out that it is not complying with the standard and it is unfit for human consumption, then in that case what the FSO has to do, FSO may give notice in writing to the FPO and then destroy the same. So first, the FSO or the food safety officer has to notify the food business operator that your food is not complying with the regulation. A proper notice in a proper format has to be given to the FPO, and then thereafter that food sample or the food article or that batch has to be destroyed. Okay. So the correct answer we have already got here. So what is the correct answer? After giving proper notice in writing to the FPO, the sample or the food has to be destroyed. So the option B is correct over here. In other cases, when any adulterant is found in possession of any particular manufacturer or dealer or any trader, or if any document has been found that can be used as a tool for investigation, or that can be kept in hold for any further investigation, in that case those things can also be seized by FSO, and a sample of that can be sent to food analyst for the analysis, right? So I hope this is clear. We'll move on to the next question. The designated officer performs the following functions except sanction and launch prosecutions, issuing and cancelling licenses of FBOs, seize any article of food, investigate any complaints against FSOs. Now we are talking about the roles and duties of designated officer. You understood the hierarchy or maybe the how functioning of the FSSAI works: designated officer, food safety officer, and the food analyst. So we have talked about FSO just now. Now the question has come directly about the functions or the duties and roles and responsibilities of designated officer. So we'll look at the duties of the designated officer. So first of all, the commissioner of the food safety commissioner will be appointing this designated officer, and this designated officer are there for specified area in that particular state or union territory. Now the functions of the designated officer are first to issue or cancel the licenses of FPO. So the FSSAI licenses that are being issued, that will be issued by a designated officer, or he or she has the power to cancel the same. Right? This is the first thing. Second, to prohibit sale of food which is in contravention of the act or regulation, which is not complying with the act, then the designated officer can prohibit its sale. To receive report and samples of food from FSO and get them analyzed. So the reports or samples, if FSO is sending to designated officer, then the designated officer will get them analyzed by food analyst, of course. To make recommendations to Commissioner of Food Safety to launch prosecution in case contravention punishable with imprisonment. If it has been concluded that some penalty or there is some punishment has to be given in form of imprisonment, then the recommendation is given by the designated officer to the Commissioner of Food Safety that this kind of punishment is to be given to the particular FP or particular person. To sanction prosecutions in case of contravention punishable with fine. If a simple fine is to be imposed on a particular FPO, then the DO has the authority to sanction those prosecutions. To maintain record of all the inspections that are being made by the FSO, and also what are the actions taken by he or she has to take a note of that as well. To get investigated any complaint that has been made in case any contravention of act or regulation has been made. Also to investigate any complaint that has been made against the food safety officer. Now let's get back to the question. What the question is asking, what are the functions except? So we have to find out which is not the function of designated officer. So we saw that the sanction and launch of prosecutions are being done. If it is some fine has to be done, prosecution will be done by whom? Who will sanction the prosecution? Designated officer. He or she will be issuing and cancelling the license, correct? Seize any article of food. We didn't talk about anywhere that the designated officer will be seizing any article of food. Instead, we talked about this in the food safety officer's role, that the officer, one of the duties for FSO is to seize any article of food if it is in contravention of the act. So this is the answer, that he or she is not doing this particular duty. Last is investigate any complaint against FSO. We just saw that yes, it is the duty or the responsibility of DO to investigate any complaint that has been made against the FSO. So the answer to this question is option C. C is any article of food. That is not the role of designated officer. We'll now move on to the next question. The next question says, as per FSS Act 2006, purchaser or a consumer may have any food article analyzed by. So now we have come to the other stakeholder, that is the consumer. How can how can you get your sample or get your food analyzed by? So the options we have is, first, informing the FBO at the time of purchase of his intention, that the person has to inform to the FBO that I am buying this particular food because I want to get it tested, or the intention has to be made clear. Sending purchased food for analysis without informing the FBO. Sending two parts to the FSO. Dividing the sample into 3 parts. So we'll see as per the Act what the Act says, what a purchaser is supposed to do. So if a purchaser wants or desires to get the sample or get the food analyzed by food analyst, he or she shall give a notice to the FPO. So the person, so this kind of information has to be given to the FPO. He or she has the right to know that the sample, that the food that has been bought from him or her is going to be analyzed. So that notice or that information has to be given, that intention has to be told to FPO. Then the purchaser, what the purchaser can do, he or she can divide the sample that he has taken into 2 parts. So one will be sent to the food analyst to a particular lab for analysis, and the other is sent to the designated officer for if any appeal is made by FBO. So in case some negative results come in and the FBO or the food business operator wants to put an appeal to the designated officer, then in that case the other sample that has been sent to the designated officer will be utilized for the further purpose. Now, of course, because the analysis is being desired by the purchaser, he or she shall make the payment for the analysis. So, in this question, what will be our answer? It's very clear that what the purchaser is supposed to do, he or she should inform the FPO at the time of purchase about his or her intention. So, the option A is our correct answer. Moving on to the next question. The question is very straightforward. It is asking about the definition. Food business operator is a person who. So the options are given over here. We know food business operator conducts business. So the correct, if you see the options, these are all very much related options. First option is saying that runs his or her business and follows the rules and regulation of the Food Act. Works for private business and abides by the rules and regulations of the Food Act. Works for a food manufacturing company that complies with the rules and regulations of the Food Act, conducts business and responsible for ensuring compliance with FSS Act rules and regulations. So what does our Act say? Our Act says that a food business operator, as per our Act, is food business operator in relation to food business means a person by whom the business is being carried on or owned. If a person is carrying on some business or he is owning that particular business or is responsible for ensuring for the compliance and is responsible for ensuring the compliance of the FSS Act rules and regulations which are there under. So the correct answer to this question is option D, that is conducts business and is responsible for ensuring compliance with the FSS Act rules and regulations. Alright, now we'll move to the next question. Again, definition of ingredient has been asked. So we'll go as per the definition mentioned in the FSS Act 2006. So as per our Act, it says that ingredient means any substance including food additive used in the manufacturing or preparation of food present in the final product and possibly in the modified form. So ingredient which is being utilized in the initial stages, now we are preparing the food and finally we have got a final product. So what out of these options, which is the correct one? The option first says an extraneous matter present in the food product. No. A substance that gets modified in the end product. Any substance used to prepare the food. A food additive used in food preparation. So of course it can be more than an additive. So the option to this answer to this question is option C. Any substance used to prepare the food will be called food ingredient. Right? Very simple and straightforward question. Next is food business means. Again, definition, we'll go to the definition as mentioned in the FSS Act 2006. So food business means any undertaking, whether profit, whether you are doing it for profit or not, whether it's public or it's a private firm, carrying out any activity related at any stage, manufacturing, processing, packaging, storage, transportation, anything that you are doing related to food, even imports of any article, includes food services, catering services, sale of any food ingredient, these all are termed as food businesses. So here, what is the correct answer? Sale of food or food ingredients for no profit. It's not like that. It's not specifically that you have to do it without profit. A person by whom the business is carried on, no, that is the FBO. Then sale of food or food ingredients for profit or not, and whether public or private. So yes, he or she can run the business without profit, or he wants to have profit, or whether it is public or private, that is correct. Sale of food or food ingredient for profit. It's not like specifically for profit. If you're doing it for charity also, that is also, and then you're doing it for like non-profit thing also, you're selling the food, then also it is food business. So the correct answer to this question is option C, sale of food for profit or not, and whether public or private, doesn't matter. Moving on to the next question. A petty food manufacturer is someone who has a tiny food business with an annual turnover not exceeding which one of the following? 18 lakhs, 16 lakhs, 12 lakhs or 14 lakhs. So we'll first try to understand who is a petty food manufacturer. So as per the definition mentioned in the FSS Licensing and Registration of Food Business Regulation 2011, a petty food manufacturer is the one who manufactures or sells any article of food, or is a petty retailer, hawker or vendor, or any kind of temporary stall holder, or distributes food including in any religious or social gathering except the caterers, or any such business, maybe small scale business or a cottage industry relating to food business, wherein their annual turnover is not exceeding up to 12 lakhs per annum. So the annual turnover, the money that they are making out of the business in a year should not exceed 12 lakh per annum. Only then they can be called petty food manufacturers, right? Now also, if in terms of, not in terms of monetary value, we can also categorize in terms of the quantity or the quantum of the production that they are doing. So in case the production capacity of the food product does not exceed 100 kg or 100 liter per day, then also we will call it petty food manufacturer. If for dairy or for meat industry, for procurement or handling and collection of milk is up to 500 liter of milk per day. So if the person is handling, if the company is handling about 500 liters per day or less than that, then he or she will be called petty food manufacturer. In case of meat processing unit, if the slaughtering capacity is up to 2 large animals or 10 small animals or 50 poultry birds per day, then the manufacturer or the business operator will be petty food manufacturer, right? So here we were talking about the monetary in terms of the annual turnover. What should be the turnover? What is the actual turnover? It should not exceed above that to be called petty food manufacturer. So what is the correct answer? 12 lakhs. So if the person is having less than or up to 12 lakh of annual turnover, then we'll term them as petty food manufacturer, correct? Let's move on to the next question. Now again, a definition has been directly simply asked. Consumer is defined as, we all very well know what a consumer and who a consumer is. So we'll still go by the definition as mentioned in the Act. So consumer means persons or families purchasing and receiving food in order to meet their personal needs. So that is a consumer. So here, out of all the options, we have the direct option that is given over here. That is the persons and families purchasing and receiving food in order to meet their personal needs, correct? So that is our correct answer. Moving on to another question about definition. Adulterant means any article obtained from a diseased animal, any coloring matter other than the prescribed one, any material employed for the purpose of adulteration, any article containing any poisonous ingredient. So what is adulterant? As per the definition, adulterant could be anything is a material which could be employed for making food unsafe or substandard, or for making any profit, or making it misbranded, or it has some extraneous matter. So that is the adulterant. So what it is doing, actually an adulterant is causing adulteration. So that is being added for the purpose of adulteration. So the correct answer over here will be option C. It is employed for the purpose of adulteration or for making any kind of profit through adulteration. That is adulterant, right? Next question, food means any substance. Now again, very direct question, what is food? So we all know again what food is. We'll still go by the definition as mentioned in the FSS Act 2006. So food, as per the Act, food means substance whether processed or partially processed or unprocessed in any form, raw or processed or anything, which is intended for human consumption, that we'll call it as food. Now this can include the primary food, genetically modified food, or any engineered food, food containing ingredients of any of these nature, infant food or chewing gums or packaged drinking water, or any other material such as alcoholic drink or other things which are used during the manufacturing or preparation of the treatment of food. But it does not include the animal feed or the live animals unless they are being ultimately consumed by humans that is being intended for human consumption. So that we'll call as food. Now out of the options given over here, we have processed and is intended for human consumption. So it is not mandatory that it has to be processed. In the raw form also we call it food only. Unprocessed, again not mandatory that it has to be unprocessed. Genetically modified and engineered food intended for human consumption. No, even a non-genetically modified food is termed as food. Processed or unprocessed, which is intended for human consumption. So the last option is the correct answer, right? We'll go to the next question. A definition of hazard has been asked. So as per the Act, hazard means any biological, chemical or physical agent or condition of food which has the potential to cause any adverse health effect to the consumer who is going to eat it. So it may cause some kind of illness or some kind of a problem to the consumer that who is going to eat that particular food containing that hazard. So it can be physical, it can be chemical or biological. So out of the options given here, if you see directly it is given in the last option all of the biological, chemical and physical. In others, if you see, there are few of them only which can cause adverse health effects. Of course, this is our hazard definition. We'll move on to the next question, that is chemical preservative is defined as chemical compound that what it can do. First option, retard alterations caused by microorganisms in food, increase the nutritional value of the fruit, hastens ripening of in case of some fruits and vegetables, speeds up alteration caused by microorganisms in food. So we know preservative, now we are adding preservative to have longer shelf life, right? So as per what preservatives are, these are the compounds which are used to retard the activity or the spoilage that is being caused by the microorganism. It is going to slow down that process. All the reactions are slowed down so that less damage is happens to the food, and also it gets higher shelf life. So these are the food additives which prolongs the shelf life of the food by protecting them against deteriorative actions that are caused by the microorganisms. So it is going to retard that microbial spoilage by the microorganisms. As per the regulation, FSS Food Products Standards and Food Additives Regulation 2011, food preservatives have been defined as the means a substance which when added to a food is capable of inhibiting, retarding or arresting the process of fermentation, acidification or any other decomposition process. So it is ultimately indicating that only that it is retarding the activity or retarding the microbial spoilage of the food. It is not going to spoil that faster. Right, so out of these, the first option is correct over here, right? We'll move on to the next question. A system integrating all the food safety standards and regulations for providing quick access to vertical as well as horizontal standards is called. Now here we'll start with the questions which are talking about initiatives or some kind of scheme or some kind of any initiative that is being taken by FSSAI, some website developed or something. Some initiative taken by FSSAI. So the first question we have here, they are asking that a system is there which is integrating all the food safety standards and regulations that have been enacted or that have been made by FSSAI, and this system provides access to all of this, to all of the vertical as well as horizontal standards. So vertical means specific standards for any particular area or particular commodity. In general standards which are applied to different categories of food products, those are horizontal standards. Now what is the system which is having all of those standards for all of these products? So the options we have is the Indian Food Standards Quick Access, FSSAI, FSS Act, International Food Standards. So the correct answer to this is the Indian Food Standards Quick Access. Now what is this Indian Food Standards Quick Access, IFSQA in short? is a platform which has been launched by FSSAI, wherein it's a single platform integrating all the standards and all the regulations on safety and the quality of food items. And why it has been created? Because obviously if we have all the standards at one place, the person or any FPO or any consumer will not have to go at different places to search for any regulation or standard, and at one place the person can get all the information, and that will definitely reduce the ambiguity amongst the FPOs, and also it will help in better interpretation of the regulations, and finally facilitate the FPOs for smooth operations in their business. So this system provides all the relevant information about food product at single glance. If you want a particular standard for a particular food product, you can get that. And also not just for a particular food product, it is giving information about specific product quality standards, maybe about additives, about the metal contaminants, about the food category code in line with the Codex food categorization system, and microbiological contaminants. All of these standards and all of these regulations are available at this IFS QA. It also provides a wide choice of provisions for food business to improve how they can, which regulation they can utilize or which standard they can utilize to improve their systems. So the correct answer to this question is that system is known as IFS QA, that is Indian Food Standards Quick Access, right? The next question is IFS Quick Access is a system developed by, we just now saw that it has been launched by FSSAI. So it's very straightforward that the IFS QA, which is a single platform integrating all the standards, has been launched by FSSAI. So FSSAI is the correct answer over here. Next question is, online service, namely the food product approval system, is developed too. Now again, this is a system developed by FSSAI, which is named as Food Product Approval System. So why it has been developed? The options we have here is regulate manufacture, storage, distribution, sale and import of food article, identify a food product requires the approval from FSSAI, ensure safe and wholesome food for human consumption, develop food standards, regulation guidelines. So the name itself is giving you a lot of hint that the food product approval system is indicating that a platform where the person will get to know whether the product requires approval or not. Now why this kind of situation will arise? Let us suppose that a person or a company is trying to prepare a new formulation or a new product or a proprietary food for which there is no existing standard, or maybe the standards does not apply to a particular food product that they have developed. So in that case, they need to know that whether the particular product that they have developed, it requires approval or not, and if so, they will apply for the approval. So that system is called Food Product Approval System, which has been developed by FSSAI to identify whether any food product requires approval from FSSAI. Now it is as per the provisions of FSS Approval of Non-Specified Food and Food Ingredients Regulation 2017. Okay, so again it is helping the FPOs for doing easy business, or it is helping in ease of doing business, right? So the correct answer would be here, identify whether my food product requires approval from FSSAI or not. The Food Product Approval System is a system for that thing, right? Moving on to the next question, the project Clean Street Hub is an initiative taken up under 360-degree approach to. Now again, this is an initiative launched by FSSAI, Clean Street Food. They are asking, it's an initiative taken up under 360 approach to what? For what? It has been taken up food safety and healthy nutrition, safety, food adulteration and hygiene, what it is targeting at. So this Clean Street Food, again the name itself is giving you a lot of information that the objective of this was to make sure that the street foods that are available are made in the hygienic and best in the safe conditions, and to make aware to the street vendors and the hawkers or those people that are selling those street food aware about the safety and hygienic conditions, hygienic requirements that a food requires. So this Clean Street Food was an initiative for that only. So the focus is, the approach is for food safety and healthy nutrition, of course, that they have to take into consideration both the things, the safety of the food also and also about the nutrition aspect. Now, what this initiative is all about, it involves training and capacity building of all the street food vendors and ensure that the proper regulatory oversight is made over those people under this act, right? So the correct answer would be what it is approaching. The approach is for food safety and healthy nutrition, right? Moving on to the next question, the objective of Clean Street Hub includes. Now again, if you see, the name is quite similar. We just talked about clean street food, and now we have clean street hub. So the objective is similar. We are talking about the hygienic and safety of the food, the street food specifically. Here it's just that we are talking about hub. Now what is hub? About 50 street food vendors, about 50 stalls if are there in a particular area, that we'll call at hub, clean street hub. So this initiative includes what it is targeting at. It is first of all, hub is where we have a cluster of 50 or more vendors, shops or stalls, and they are selling the regional and the local food product, that particular cuisine. So 80% or more has to be regional, then only it will qualify to be clean street food hub, and they need to meet the basic hygiene and the sanitary requirements which have to be followed by all the food manufacturers. And the FSSAI has started to recognize and to certify all of these food hubs, clean street food hubs, which are complying with the safety standards and the sanitary requirements. Now why this initiative? Of course, to ensure that safe and healthy and safe hygienic food is being served to the consumer, and also to raise the quality of the food that the vendors or the street food vendors are providing, so as to make them at the level, to bring them at the level of the restaurants and other hotels. Also to ensure the upliftment of the food vendors. Once they'll make good quality food, more consumers will be attracted, and of course it will enhance their business as well. And also to enhance the popularity of street food in the as a global brand by itself, right? So here, what would be the objective? We have just understood what is the objective. Out of these options, what is the objective? It's a very direct question. So here you can see the objective is the rigorous implementation of hygiene and safety in the eat out places, or basically the street food places or the street vendors places. So this is for implementation of hygiene and safety standards or safety requirements in those areas, right? Moving on to the next question, it asks about something related to the oil conversion, or that is, Dehradun based Indian Institute of Petroleum has pilot tested to convert used cooking oil into. What they have converted this used cooking oil into? Bioethanol, bio-aviation turbine fuel, biodiesel, biomethanol. So the correct answer to this is they have converted this used cooking oil into bio-aviation turbine fuel. Now this bio-aviation turbine fuel is made from this used cooking oil, but the complete this bio-aviation ATF will not be used. This is blended with the actual conventional ATF at some level and then being utilized for the aircraft as a fuel, right? Now this question is in relation to the initiative that has been launched by FSSAI, that is RUCO, that is repurposed used cooking oil. You might have heard about this, wherein FSSAI has indicated, or FSSAI is targeting so that the cooking oil that is being used for manufacturing and other purposes in the food industry is being not being utilized many times at the food industry level, because of course because of the negative health implications it can have on the consumers because of increased total polar compounds due to repeated consumption or repeated use, repeated frying and all. So they have directed that this, instead of this reusing, you can repurpose it into the other things such as converting into the biodiesel. Of course, this is a great this conversion can boost the economy, and of course can help the the manufacturers as well, because they'll not have to throw that oil, they can convert it into biodiesel. So that conversion is being done to biodiesel. Of course, this biodiesel will not be completely used for the vehicle, it will be mixed with the conventional diesel in some particular proportion. So this RUCO initiative is being implemented with the strategy of EEE, that is education, enforcement and ecosystem. That is the strategy that FSSAI is utilizing to implement this initiative. Alright, so the answer to this question, of course, we have got to know this bioaviation turbine fuel is the right answer. That Dehradun Institute, Dehradun based Indian Institute of Petroleum has converted this used cooking oil to the bioaviation turbine fuel, right? Next question is, one-step interface for making all activities of food testing through online interface is called as. Now we are talking about the testing activities that all the food analysts are doing, the testings and all the testing and surveillance activities that are going on. There is one-step interface where the FSSAI or the organization is managing all of these food testing activities. What that interface is? FSSAI website, IFS Quick Access, FPAS, Infonet. So we have just now understood about all of these actually. If you see, FSSAI website is a general platform for all the other information, but it is not specifically for managing all the testing systems or the testing facilities that are going on pan-India. IFS Quick Access, we have just now understood that it is quick access for all the food safety standards and the requirements and regulations which can be made easily available to the other stakeholders. So that is for that purpose. Other is FPAS, that is Food Product Approval System, that is for you in case if you require any approval for a new product. So the last one we have is the InfoNet, that is for the managing the activities of food testing through this online interface. That is, InfoNet is the right answer. So InfoNet, what is InfoNet? So InfoNet stands for Indian Food Laboratories Network. It is basically an IT based system for lab management, for all the activities that are going in the lab, which sample is coming and when the report is ready. So for all that management activities, starting from the sample collection till the report is generated, for all this management system, this InfoNet is an interface to manage all of these activities. InfoNet provides an extensive online portal for the food laboratories and different stakeholders which are involved in this analysis and for this all food testing. Also, it is one-stop resource for managing all the activities for food testing through online interface. So, the right answer for this question is InfoNet is the one-stop interface for managing all the food testing activities, right? Next question is, to promote safe and healthy food, FSSAI has launched a training toolkit for health under the scheme Jago Grahak Jago, Swachh Bharat, Satwik Khana, Ayushman Bharat. Now, FSSAI has promoted this safe and healthy food, and they have also launched the training toolkit. Now, under which scheme they have launched this? That is what this question is asking. So, the right answer to this is Ayushman Bharat scheme. We know about this Ayushman Bharat scheme. It's a national public health insurance scheme launched by Government of India, which aims at providing free access to the health insurance coverage to low-income earners in the country. And in this scheme only, FSSAI has launched this training toolkit for the health workers who are working in this scheme, in Ayushman Bharat scheme, and in the various wellness centers, Anganwadis and others. So the FSSAI has provided training toolkits which is promoting safe and healthy food. So the correct answer to this is Ayushman Bharat. We know that the other schemes are not related exactly to food, about these two specifically. So Jago Grahak Jago is for consumer awareness, and Swachh Bharat, we know it's for the eliminating the open defecation and for solid waste management it is there for. Right, so the correct answer is Ayushman Bharat, right? Moving on to the next question, trans fats can be avoided by avoiding vanaspati ghee for cooking, choosing meat and dairy products, consumption of baked and processed foods like biscuit, fan, cake, chips, etc. Leaving food in the oil for a long time. Now again, this is very simple and even a very common question as well. But before getting into the answer, let us try to understand what trans fats are and where these are found actually. So trans fats are bad fats which should not be consumed as a part of your diet. The sources can be natural as well as artificial. Yes, it is naturally found in many of the products in small amounts, basically in meat and dairy products extracted from ruminants. So though it is not that harmful, from the harmful one is the artificial, more harmful one is the artificial or the industrial trans fat. Now what is this artificial or industrial trans fat? It is being manufactured industrially by chemical processes such as your partial hydrogenation of oils or your thermal treatments of oil, such as or any other process like refining of oil or repeated frying or heating of oil, that can cause the generation of trans fats during this process. Right, so industrial trans fats are manufactured are present basically in your partially hydrogenated fats. It is present in huge quantities in those fats, which include your vanaspati, margarine, bakery shortenings, the fat shortenings that are being used in the bakery. All of these are your hydrogenated vegetable fats, and they do contain the trans fats. And also it is found in the food which are prepared using these in bakery products, in fried food products, in reheated oils also during reheating the oil or using the same oil again and again for frying. It can also cause the creation of the production of trans fatty acids into them. And now, so to avoid them, how we can avoid them? Of course, by not eating all of these food products, of course. So in this option, what is the right answer? The first answer is the correct answer. Avoiding vanaspati ghee for cooking, which is a partially hydrogenated fat, so it will contain trans fats. Other options, if you see, choosing meat and dairy products, no, you should no, that is not the right answer. Consumption of bakery, of course, no, it has trans fats. And leaving food in the oil, of course, that is also not correct answer. So the right answer here is avoiding vanaspati ghee for cooking. A related fact to this trans fatty acid concept, that FSSAI has made an objective that for freedom from trans fats at 75, that is they want, it has made an objective that India should be free from trans fats by 75, that is about 75th year of our independence, that is 2022 only. So by that time India should be trans fat free. Now when we'll call it by trans fat free, so it has indicated a phased manner that we'll reduce the industrially produced trans fat in the food. So first the limit was set at 3% for 2021 and now it has been reduced to 2% by 2022. Alright, so this is the initiative that has again been taken by FSSAI related to trans fats. Again another question related to trans fats. The question says a healthy food contains trans fatty acids content of, so when you say healthy food, that it has the least amount of fatty acid, but when can you claim that it is healthy and it does not have trans fatty acid, or it has less trans fatty acid? When can you claim specifically on a particular food label? So what is the exact quantity? So as per the regulation, the food in which hydrogenated trans fats or hydrogenated vegetable oils have been used, partially hydrogenated vegetables oil have been used, or as shortenings or maybe for frying, anywhere if you have used such things, you have to indicate on the label that hydrogenated vegetable fats have been used and which may contain trans fats. So as per the FSS Packaging and Labeling Regulation 2011, this indication should be given, and if you want to claim that a particular product is trans fat free, that it does not contain trans fat, then in that case the trans fat of the food content should be less than 0.2 gram per serving. So per serving of the food should contain less than 0.2 grams of the trans fat, then only you can claim on the label that it is trans fat free. And the claim in case for the saturated fat free product, in that case the limit is 0.1 gram per 100 gram of the food product, or per 100 ml in case of liquid food product. So here you have got the answer. When can we say it is trans fat free or a healthy food? It should have less than 0.2 gram per serving of food. So less than 0.2 gram of trans fat should be there, or less than that, then only we can claim it as healthy food or trans fat free food, correct? The next question is, third party private auditing of FBO will do which of the following? More frequent regulatory inspections by central or state licensing authority, increase the gap between the regulators led enforcement and field level, non-compliance, reduce the food safety inspections conducted by food licensing authorities, facilitate free of cost auditing for FBOs. So what will happen if I own a company or I run a food manufacturing company and I want to get third party private auditing done? So what will be the benefit or what will be the disadvantage? So we know that in order to cultivate and foster this culture of compliance towards the FSS Act, FSSAI has also enabled the compliance through private recognized audit agencies as well. So a company can also get inspection done by a third party auditor or third party agency also. So that will also be considered as an inspection. Now this food safety audit will reduce the burden on the regulatory inspections that are being done by the central or the state authorities. So if all the companies are getting this third party audits done, it means that they're complying with a particular standard, and that reduces the burden or the the worry of the central authorities or state food authorities that they have to regularly check. But of course the other inspections have to be done by the state food authorities and central authorities as per the norms, but this burden will be reduced, and in some cases it can also reduce the frequency of the inspections that are being conducted by the central or state food authorities. This will strengthen the food safety surveillance, of course, and encourage the self-compliance while at the same time assuring safe food to the consumer. So what it will do is the third-party auditing, private auditing, what it can do is it can reduce the food safety inspections conducted by licensing authorities. So that will this third-party auditing will help in that, right? Next, moving on to the next question, micronutrient malnutrition leads to now goiter, diabetes, PEM, obesity. Now, what is micronutrient malnutrition? We know the malnutrition which is caused by the deficiency of the micronutrients, which are basically your vitamins and the minerals, which are consumed in less quantities, and macronutrients are your proteins, fats and carbohydrates, which are consumed in more larger quantities, right? So, which of these is actually because of deficiency of some or some malnutrition of some micronutrient? So, let us see one by one. First, going to the goiter. Goiter, we know that it is being caused by iodine deficiency. So, when a very low iodine is being consumed, goiter can happen. That is a deficiency disorder. And what happens is the thyroid gland is using this iodine. So, when there is low iodine in the blood, the thyroid gland enlarges to capture more and more of iodine. So, in that case, you have swollen neck because of the, in severe cases, you have very huge swollen neck because of the enlargement of the thyroid gland. So, that is causing goiter. Now again, this we have here itself, we have got the answer that iodine is a micronutrient and its deficiency will cause goiter. So, the answer to this is goiter itself we have got, but still let us look at the other options. Diabetes, we know it's a chronic disease, occurs when the pancreas is not able to produce insulin, or even if it is producing, it is not effectively utilizing that insulin that it has produced. So, in that case, diabetes can happen. PEM stands for protein energy malnutrition, which includes a lot of range of conditions which arise because there is low intake of protein and or low intake of calories. So, it can happen in both the cases, and the diseases or the deficiencies include such as your kwashiorkor or marasmus, which are very common in children and infants due to very low calorie intake or very low protein intake in the food. Maybe carbohydrates are there, the protein intake is very low. So, in that case, this protein energy malnutrition can happen. Obesity, we know it's because of the excessive or the abnormal fat accumulation in the body, and of course it has very negative implication on the body and it gives, it leads to other diseases as well. So, the correct answer we have already got, that the malnutrition out of these micronutrient malnutrition is goiter. We will look at the other deficiency diseases also, which are caused by some of the nutrients. Talking about the vitamins, vitamin A causes, the deficiency of vitamin A causes night blindness, xerophthalmia and keratomalacia. So, this xerophthalmia is the dryness of this eye or cornea, and keratomalacia is the cloudiness of this cornea. So, because of this vitamin A deficiency, it's more related to the sight vision only because of the carotene we know. So, that is causing these deficiency disorders. Vitamin D deficiency can cause rickets in children and osteomalacia in adults. So, rickets is basically bone deformation and bone is not formed, the body is not developed properly, and osteomalacia is the softening of the bones that happens in adults and the bone becomes very fragile and easy to crack. So, that is because of the vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin C deficiency can cause scurvy. We know because of the low collagen development in the body that causes gum bleeding or fatigue or something, tiredness and other things. Vitamin B1, that is the thiamine, the deficiency of thiamine can cause beriberi. Vitamin B3 or niacin deficiency can cause pellagra. Vitamin B9, that is folic acid, can cause megaloblastic anemia where the size of the RBCs increases. Vitamin B12, cyanocobalamin causes pernicious anemia. Talking about the minerals, we have some of the common minerals include your iron. The deficiency is very common, iron deficiency anemia, or we can also say microcytic hypochromic anemia. Iodine deficiency causes goiter, we just saw. Protein deficiency, the macronutrient, can cause kwashiorkor or marasmus. That is your protein energy malnutrition. These are some of the common deficiency disorders caused by some of the common nutrients. There are many deficiency disorders which can be caused due to other vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. So, that is all from my side. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and share this video with other FSSAI aspirants, and don't forget to subscribe to channel Foodemy for more such videos.